Hello and welcome to everybody. I'm Hala Alawi, Atmosphere Press's Book Publicity and Events Manager. Thank you so much for joining us for day 2 of our 2025 Writers Summit. The Atmosphere Press Writers Summit is a completely free and entirely virtual 2-day writers conference where you have the opportunity to connect with fellow writers who are serious about their publishing goals. Whether you're preparing your manuscript, you're exploring your publishing options, or you're figuring out how to promote your book once it's actually out into the world, this summit features 8 digestible sessions that will give you real, practical insights from industry experts. In these sessions, we'll be hearing from published Atmosphere Press authors, learning about book coaching and marketing strategies, and discovering how Atmosphere Press can support you at every stage of the process. In this panel specifically, we'll be talking about how to prepare the perfect manuscript submission to get picked up for publication with our guest, Dr. Trista Edwards. She explains what editors are looking for in a promising manuscript and how you can apply her tips to make sure your manuscript stands out in the best way possible. You'll also have the opportunity for Trista to answer your questions during the Q&A portion of the event. So at any time, please do use the Q&A box that's at the bottom of your Zoom screen to send in your questions. You can also use that box to check the Answered tab to see answers to questions that have already been posed. Also, just for attendees of this panel, we'll be running an exclusive giveaway for a free editorial coaching session with an Atmosphere Press editor. The winner will be selected at random, and I will announce them at the end of Trista's panel. And one more thing before we get into her talk. This panel is brought to you by Feathered Quill Book Reviews. Feathered Quill was established in 2008, offering review services, author interviews, and advertising to independent authors. In 2015, an annual award program was added to give authors an additional means of promotion. The award program runs from August through December each year, with winners announced the following February. Throughout the years, Feathered Quill has grown steadily and today is proud to be one of the leading online review sites. Having received dozens of stellar, high-quality reviews from Feathered Quill for our authors, Atmosphere Press is especially proud to collaborate with Feathered Quill in support of this panel. Please visit their website at featheredquill.com to see what services they offer to authors. I'm going to put those links in the chat for you as well. With that, I am thrilled to introduce our guest speaker. Trista Edwards, she, her, holds a PhD in creative writing from the University of North Texas, as well as an MA and BA from the University of West Georgia. She is the author of Spectral Evidence from April Gloaming Press 2020, and the editor of Till the Tide, an anthology of mermaid poetry from Sundress Publications in 2015. Her poems have appeared in Ligeia Magazine, Flapper House, Dream Pop Press, Southeast Review, The Adroit Journal, White Stag, Lover's Eye Press, and more. Trista lives in Hiram, Georgia with her husband and 2 children. When she's not talking about books, she can be found working on her various miniature dollhouses or making candles. You can read more of her writing on her website, www.tristaedwards.com. And with that, I'm excited to let you know that we'll hear more from Trista herself.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Hala. It's fantastic to be here connecting with all of you today at this virtual summit, our first virtual summit here at Atmosphere. You've poured your heart and your soul into your manuscript, and now you're ready for that next crucial step, figuring out how to bring it to readers. So over the next 15 minutes, I'm going to walk through some key elements of crafting a submission package and also touch upon how to determine if, traditional self or hybrid publishing aligns with your goals. And that will lead you to crafting, a winning submission that will get you from that final draft to the publisher's desk. So first and foremost, let's talk about the manuscript itself. You might think that once the final word is written, the hard part is over. Not quite. We wish, but not quite. There's still meticulous self-editing, often, professional feedback. I mean, it becomes absolutely vital. Imagine an editor sifting through hundreds of submissions and a manuscript riddled with typos or grammatical errors, inconsistencies. It can really scream unprofessional before they even get to your story. They're just reading the cover letter or this, the query. So, I mean, first and foremost, with your manuscript, you really want to polish your gem. Um, Something I do and really, advise is try reading your manuscript out loud. It helps catch awkward phrasing and errors that your eye might skip over. It can give you a fresh perspective on the clarity, the pacing, and the overall impact. Beta readers are key. Trusted fellow writers or just avid readers in your genre can provide invaluable feedback on the reader experience. And revise until you are absolutely confident that your manuscript is the best version that it can be. Now, before you even think about crafting that query letter, I think it is crucial to consider which publishing route best suits you and your book. There are three main paths to publication: traditional publishing, self-publishing, and hybrid publishing. And I think understanding your publishing options and really taking the time to research and understand these options will save you time and potential frustration down the line. So, with traditional publishing, this involves submitting your manuscript to literary agents who, if they like your work, they will pitch it to publishing houses. Or if you have a poetry manuscript, traditionally they don't typically have agents, but you may be submitting to big contests or, open submission calls. Traditional publishers handle editing, design, marketing, distribution, and a lot of key advantages here are prestige, a wider reach in bookstores, and if you have one of the big five publishers, the huge, Penguin Random House, sometimes you can get an advance, although this varies greatly. However, this path, you relinquish a significant amount of creative control. So the process can be lengthy, and the royalty rates are typically much lower. But research, traditional publishers who specialize in your genre and kind of understand what their submission process is about. If you don't know where to begin, I really do recommend picking up a few of your favorite books, seeing who published them. If you can even kind of Google, who that author's agent is, and it just starts giving you a way to break into the research. Self-publishing, this puts you in the driver's seat. You are responsible for every aspect of the publishing process, from editing, formatting, cover design, marketing, distribution. You're doing it all. Or you're kind of hiring out, independent contractors to do these parts for you. So the main benefits here are, full creative control, fast time to publication. However, you are bearing all the responsibility for enduring that professional product and, effective marketing to get the book out there to your readers. Hybrid publishing, this model sits somewhere in between. Here authors invest in their book and they work in collaboration with their publisher for services like working with an editor, cover design, distribution, and they retain higher royalties and more control rather than traditional publishing. So I would really consider this path like the supported pathway to more kind of authorial input and autonomy. So how you choose which path is right for you in your book, I mean, really consider your goals. Are your primary goals driven by prestige and wide bookstore distribution? Traditional might be for you. Do you value creative control and speed above all else? Self-publishing could be your answer. Or are you looking for a middle ground with, professional support while retaining more control? Then hybrid is most certainly the way to go. Talk to other authors in your genre about their experiences with different paths. I advise attending um, webinars or live events, this summit these past 2 days, and just read article to get kind of more valuable input and learn more about the valuable points and challenges of each path. So I really think understanding your own resources, financial time, your marketing comfort level, your long-term publishing goals is essential in making this decision. And once you have made that decision, you can focus on that query letter. It's your irresistible hook. This is arguably maybe the most crucial part of the submission. It's your sales pitch, your elevator pitch, and your introduction all rolled into one. So a strong query letter needs to achieve, I think, several things concisely. Um, Introduce yourself and your book in the letter. Clearly state, the title, the genre, the word count. Briefly mention any relevant writing credentials if you have them, or a platform if you have them, whether that's your website or social media. You don't have to give them your full resume. Remember, brief and concise, is important. They want to know who you are as a person as well as a writer, and who they could be working with. So you don't have to list every publication you've ever had. Keep it brief. Um, the hook, in this letter, start with something that's a captivating hook that's going to grab their attention immediately. It could be a compelling question, it could be a surprising statement, or a glimpse into the central conflict of your book. Provide a synopsis. Again, very brief. Keep it concise, an engaging summary of your story. You want to focus on main characters. You want to focus on the central conflict, what's at stake. Avoid getting bogged down in any, minor plot points or revealing, major twists. Think of it as a movie trailer for your book. Include your target audience and comparable titles. Briefly mention that target audience in your book, and then list about 2 to 3 recent successful comparable titles in your genre. This really helps the agent or editor understand where your book could fit into the market. Crucially, explain why your book is similar yet different than those titles and how it offers a fresh take. And something that I would like to add too is that I've heard lots of agents say, keep those comparable titles, keep those examples, within your medium. Use other book titles. Don't say, oh, my book is like a cross between White Lotus meets Sopranos set to a Beyonce soundtrack. You're using film, TV, music to tell them about what your book is, rather than other books. So I've heard agents say that if you're going to use, a show or a movie to kind of give, the vibe of your book, keep it to just one. Don't let that be the only thing that you use to kind of convey what your book is about. Um, and a professional closing, at the end of the letter, thank the agent or the editor for their time and consideration. I mean, thank yous go a long way. Clearly state that your manuscript is available upon request, or if, they have asked ahead of time, that you've attached the manuscript to the email, per their guidelines. Um, so, if that publisher editor reaches back out to you after that, awesome query letter, and they do request to see more of your manuscript, they want to see the whole thing, they want to see the first few pages, this is the opportunity to really showcase your writing voice, and immediately draw that reader into your world. So you want to make sure that if it is the first few pages, make it count. Um, you know, it can be a compelling scene. You can introduce your protagonist. You can establish the tone and style of your book. You want to ensure that these pages are polished to perfection. They are often the first taste an editor gets of your actual writing. So that's why the query letter is so key, because they're not going to look at your book first. They're going to look at that query letter, and then ask for your book if, it wasn't an open submission call to begin with. Um, Professional presentation is key. Beyond the content itself, the way you present your submission speaks volumes. Again, going back to, researching ahead of time, thoroughly research literary agents or publishing houses that specialize in your genre. You want to make sure that you're tailoring that query letter and submission to each specific recipient. Mentioning why you think your book would be a good fit for them. So generic submissions are, rarely successful. So, make sure that you're really kind of showing that person on the other end that, you want to be publishing with them. You want to work with them. Follow guidelines. Every agent and publisher has specific submission guidelines. Read them carefully. Follow them to the letter. This includes formatting or file types if they want to receive your submission as a PDF or as a Word document. Is there a specific order they want the materials in? Ignoring guidelines is really a quick way to get your submission rejected, not even based on the quality or content of your work. If you're submitting a poetry manuscript to a contest, to, the prize is publication, and they've asked you not to put your name anywhere on your manuscript, and you don't follow that guideline, they'll just immediately disqualify it, without even reading your wonderful work. So it's very important. Um, Professional formatting, ensuring that the manuscript is per their guidelines, professionally formatted. Did they want it double spaced? Keep it in a standard font. Don't do any, crazy cursive, Times New Roman, Courier, the basic stuff, page numbers, um, things that are going to keep it nice and neat, concise, organized. And just basic digital etiquette. When you're submitting electronically, use clear, concise subject line that includes your book, the title, genre, making sure you do attach files as requested, and, ensuring that it's free of errors. Um, it goes a long way. So, patience and persistence is really key in this whole process. Submitting your manuscript and the whole submission package, it's really just the beginning of, a potentially long process. So be patient. It's hard, I know, but be patient. Response times can vary greatly. While you wait, continue writing your next project. Rejection is part of the publishing journey, so don't let it discourage you. Learn from any feedback you receive. Keep owning your craft. Persistence is key. If you do get rejected, and they do take the time to tell you why, maybe your particular book wasn't right for them, and they give you feedback, take that feedback to heart. I mean, use it as a tool to help, make the next submission, even better. Um, yeah, so I will leave you with this, remember, the journey to publication involves not only crafting a compelling manuscript, um, and submission package. I think also making an informed decision about the publishing route that aligns with your aspirations and your resources, is key. I think by understanding the distinct benefits of the different paths to publishing, and then focusing on a polished manuscript, a compelling query letter, making your synopsis clear and brief, having, impactful opening pages or scenes to send, and just a clean professional presentation, significantly increases your chances to have your story reach its readers, which include that editor or that agent, it'll reach them in the best possible way for you. Um, so yes, thank you for your time. Thank you for being here with me today. Um, yeah, and I wish you all the best in your publishing journeys.
Well, thank you so much for all of that very practical and hands-on advice, Trista. I think there's sometimes this tendency to get very nebulous and esoteric with how to approach any sort of artistic endeavor. So it's really great to be able to have these actionable points of advice to act on. So I'm really excited then to get into our Q&A. We do have about 15 minutes for our Q&A with the audience. So for anyone attending, if you have a question for Trista, please go ahead and type that in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. Or I'm sorry, it's a button at the bottom of your screen. And we'll do our best to get to as many of those questions as we can. I want to start with this first question, which is, how do I know if my book idea is worth publishing?
Yeah, that's a big one. Yeah, I think your think of your book idea as, that little spark that keeps you up at night and the one that makes your brain buzz with what ifs, if you're excited about it, chances are that spark can ignite readers too. So consider if your idea offers a fresh twist on something familiar or ventures, into uncharted territory. Again, beta readers are your cheerleading squad. They can also give you honest high fives, give you that feedback. Um, but if they're giving you positive buzz, that's a great sign. So ultimately, trust your gut. If your idea makes you and your heart sing, then it's absolutely worth, exploring its potential.
Absolutely. I think it really comes back to that idea of something that you're excited about. That's going to translate really well. This next question is it advisable to mention why you contacted that particular agent in your query letter?
Yeah, I would say, if you, found an agent and you're really excited to work with them, let them know why. Let them know how you found them. Do you like the authors that they work with, the books that they are working with authors to publish, yeah, let them know why you want to work with them and what excites you. That I would definitely say do that. Go for that.
Definitely. Coming right back to that element of excitement, I think that translates so well and is so important for promoting any sort of book. This next question, I get this one a lot, so I'm excited to hear your response. How long should I wait after sending out a query letter to an agent? Should I expect a rejection note, or does silence equal rejection?
There is no great answer for this. I would lean back on just saying patience and persistence is key. Some editors and agents are typically very, very busy. So if you've sent something to an agent and they don't get back to you, um, everyone's different. Some agents will let you know, some publishing houses will let you know, and some you may never hear from again. So it is, I guess don't be alarmed that if you don't hear back. Um, it's pretty standard not to hear back. So when you do get something back, even if it's a rejection, that that's valuable and that's key, to know that you can, then move on and kind of explore the journey elsewhere. Um, and you can always try to reach out. And send a follow-up email, but then again, don't be discouraged if you don't hear anything back from that. Yeah, patience, persistence is key. So keep going, move on to the next project, move on to, the next goal that you have. Don't sit around waiting for that answer.
Right, exactly. It can be so weird figuring out that exact timeline, but I think defaulting to you don't have to wait around, I think is really a good touch point for that. This next question, are there any free online resources you would recommend on writing query letters, or do you advise against following a pre-existing template?
Um, yeah, I mean, we've got a lot of great resources on, Atmosphere's website, just for writing in general, sending out submissions. Um, you know, there are a lot of great podcasts out there to listen to that I think are super helpful. There's one um, called, oh my gosh, now I'm gonna forget it. And I listen to it all the time. There's one called You Don't Know Shit About Writing, so apologies for this for the swear. But it's really great because it's a bunch of agents who sit around and they will critique query letters and give feedback in real time over the podcast. So they let authors know what's working about their query letters and what's not. So I would just search for, podcasts, check out, our website. And yeah, there's a lot of great resources out there to Google, and you'll definitely find some.
Yes, definitely. I think doesn't hurt to check that kind of thing out while putting your own spin on it. This next question is about your background in writing. Did you try to go the traditional route or pick a hybrid approach? Or more expansively, what was your publishing experience?
My publishing experience, I came right out of grad school and I had a poetry collection that was my dissertation. And I started submitting that to a lot of small presses. Um, and that was many years ago, and I feel like I have grown much as a writer and an editor since then. And I um, wasn't fully aware of, hybrid publishing and all it could offer at the time. And I've learned so much since. I have a one collection of poetry that was is with a small indie Southern press. Um, and yeah, they just had an open call, and I submitted my manuscript after many, 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 many rejections. Um, and now, as I'm working on new projects with kind of, poetry and fiction, I'm definitely very much when those projects are complete and ready to go, very excited about, potentially, publishing them through hybrid publishing because what I've learned through my experience is that my personal experience with traditional publishing is that I did want a lot more control over the process than what I got. And so, yeah, I really value creative control and autonomy and being able to have much more control over my art. So definitely with things that I go with going forward, um, hybrid publishing is invaluable.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's that balance of freedom as an artist and creativity, but also getting that support. So thank you for sharing your particular background on that. This question is wondering if you can discuss how distribution works with hybrid publishing, any points on how the number of books printed is determined, or the availability of distribution, anything like that.
Yeah, well, obviously I can't speak for, all hybrid publishing, but, particularly, of course, with Atmosphere, we print on demand, which I think is very, um, like a very economical choice and very helpful, for the author and the publisher because your books are just printed as they are purchased and ordered by your readers or, by bookstores, making an order. So you don't have to, have like 1,000 books, sitting in your basement or in a warehouse somewhere, and, you know, we distribute, globally. So, I mean, pretty much anywhere you can buy a book online, Amazon, of course, is where everyone goes to buy books, Barnes and Noble online. So, you're gonna see your book at, kind of major online retailers, where, your readers can get it widely, just as they would any book. Um, so was there a second part to that question? I don't know if I answered it all.
Yeah, it was just about how distribution works with hybrid publishing. So those were some great details to throw in the mix there. It's good to know that, especially like you said, we can't speak on behalf of all hybrid publishers, but at least with Atmosphere, what we know about that, obviously much more than any other publisher, is yeah, we balance that distribution from Ingram, which is a wholesaler used by most booksellers and librarians, and Amazon, because that's where most sales that authors make are going to be made. But we can always, customize it to the author's preferences, basically. This next question is, what do your editors want to see in a manuscript before they start working on it? And then after they start working on it, how much editing help do authors get from Atmosphere's editors?
Oh, I like this question. Um, because I love to work with authors on their books. So, I would say for myself, and I'm going to speak for my other fellow editors here at Atmosphere, I think a manuscript that's got a spark. Again, it goes back to that excitement. Like we're looking for stories or ideas that really grab us by the collar, from page one and whisper like you need to know what happens next. So I mean, think compelling characters, that we'll still be thinking about weeks later. A, a really interesting plot, or if you have nonfiction, a concept that's insightful and kind of makes you go like, aha, I never thought of that before, or I've never thought of that side of the story. But, ultimately, a voice that's like uniquely yours. You know, it it doesn't have to be perfect. That's what we're here for, which I know is counter to everything I just shared with you. But I mean, I'll go back and say it should be polished when you send it to a press or an agent. But just, Gillian Flynn, like she's still getting help from her editor. She's still getting notes. The version she sends to her agent or editor is not the version that gets, printed. So, that's what I mean, by it doesn't have to be perfect. Even the best authors are getting notes from their editor. So that's what we're here for. We want to see that raw potential, that glimmer of brilliance that, tells us that there's a fantastic book, just kind of waiting to be unleashed. So yeah, I mean, give us a captivating core. Um, and then we're ready to roll up our sleeves and help you as editors and help you make it shine.
Yes, absolutely. That's the whole point of getting editing help, I think, is just getting those additional eyes to make it even better than one person could on their own. This next question, what do I do if I disagree with what my editor is saying?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are anxious about that. I would just say, um, you know, engage in a respectful dialogue. Understand, maybe what your editor's like reasoning is, or, be able to clearly articulate your perspective and maybe like why you're disagreeing with what they're suggesting. Um, be open to compromise. Um, it's a collaborative process, but ultimately it is your book. And I, myself and like my fellow editors here at Atmosphere, like we don't want to take your book and make it our book. We want to help you perfect your book and make it be the best version of itself. So we want to make sure we're staying true to your voice and vision. So, you know, choose your battles wisely and focus on what's best for the final product, what's best for the book. Um, but ultimately, I would say, when I make, from my personal experience, when I make suggestions that, maybe an author doesn't necessarily agree with or find right for the direction of their book or their characters, um, I'd say don't be nervous. It won't result in a fight. We just always talk it through, and I hear their reasoning, they hear mine, and we try to get to a point where they feel comfortable, and they, we're keeping the book's best interest at heart. And at the end of the day, sometimes they kind of maybe see my side of things, and then at the end of the day, sometimes I see their side of things, and they don't want to change anything, and we move forward. So, yeah, I'd say don't be anxious, don't be nervous, be open to discussion and ultimately, it's your book and it's your choice and you don't have to change what doesn't feel right to you.
Exactly. Having that control is so important as an artist, not just writers. So thank you for kind of validating that for many writers. This last question that I want to close on, if someone is wanting to take the next step with their manuscript, whether they are completely new to Atmosphere or they're considering a contract, what should they do next?
Yeah, yeah, this is exciting. Yeah, so I mean, if you feel like you've got something ready, you can just go to our website, atmospherepress.com. You'll see up at the top, there's a tab that says submit your manuscript. And yeah, just go through there, upload it. And yeah, we'll read it. You can always also I love to make connections. I love to hear from people. So please feel free if you want to, reach out to me directly. My email's Trista at atmospherepress.com. Very easy to remember. But yeah, if you have, questions, please reach out. If you're ready to submit your manuscript, go to our website and send it to us. We're ready to read it.
Well, thank you so much for all of those really thoughtful answers to those questions, Trista. That is all the time for questions we have for in this panel. But if you have a question that wasn't answered, please stick around for more panels later today. You can also check out Atmosphere Press's YouTube channel because we've got previous live sessions with publishing professionals, and Trista has featured on there. So you can check that out in case she's answered similar questions there. That being said, thank you so much to Dr. Trista Edwards for sharing your knowledge and your advice with us today. And thank you to everyone in the audience for being here and for putting in all of these great questions, stimulating conversation. The next panel today is going to be about advocating for your work after the writing and editing is done with author and speaker Terry M. Brown. We'll be giving away more exclusives in her panel, and she's got a lot of great insights, so it'll be a good thing to tune in for. To rejoin the webinar for the next panel, just click the same link you clicked to join the webinar for this panel. The next panel will begin shortly, so while you're in the digital waiting room, you can enjoy excerpts from the audiobook Courts of Law, Not Courts of Justice by Eric D. Oberer. Thank you again to this panel's sponsor, Feathered Quill Book Reviews. You can go to their website to learn more about their review services, author interviews, and advertising opportunities for independent authors. And of course, I am happy to announce this panel giveaway winner. The winner of an editorial coaching session with an Atmosphere Press editor is Sky Boshin. Please look out for an email from Atmosphere this week about arranging the delivery of your prize. But in the meantime, we look forward to seeing all of you in the next panel.